Hello, welcome to another episode of Coming Out Stories from What Goes On Media with me, Emma Goswell. In this episode, you're going to meet an incredible human being who's really fought to live the life they deserve. Now, I don't meet many people who really do lose it all and never speak to their family again, but this sadly is one of those stories. Be warned, there are some really tough bits to their journey, but it's also a story of determination, bravery, friendship and love. Time now to meet a drag queen called Val Qaeda. Yes, the name is deliberately provocative. In a recent interview, she said, "It's just my way of reclaiming the jokes that I've been the butt of for most of my life. I've been called a terrorist countless times, sometimes in jest, but sometimes it's not. So why not make the joke first and take back that power?" She also refers to herself as the Bollywood bombshell in a burqa. Wonderful. Well, I started by asking how they identify.
I'm a gay man and a drag queen. Pronouns are he, him, out of drag, she, her, in drag. But in general, I don't really care about pronouns. It's for myself, It's a massive, massive issue. I don't like it when I get called he in drag because I feel like it's purposely said and it's disrespectful. Like, oh, look at him. It's like, I'm wearing a wig and breastplate.
Your breastplate is something else, isn't it? It is ginormous.
Tell my neck that. It's definitely something else. I've had neck pain ever since I bought it. It's horrible.
Well, yes, it's Dolly Parton-esque, isn't it, really?
I mean, it was advertised as double D, but a tailor actually measured it and it was more of a H. So I got more bang for my buck, but in my neck suffered.
You're like most women, always wearing the wrong bra size.
Oh, literally, though. I think I started off with a double D bra size and essentially my tits were pushed into my chest. And like since then, I think I got up to like a G or something. That's a more comfortable one. But hey, we're not talking about bra sizes.
No, we're not. But it was interesting what you said about pronouns because, you know, it's always, I think people find it difficult to understand how to talk to drag queens sometimes. But it's interesting that you sort of define it as if you're dressing as a man, as you are today, then you are he, him. And if you are in drag, you are she, her. It's quite an easy way to remember it, really. But I guess it's not that for everybody, is it?
Yeah, I guess it's not that for everybody because you do get non-binary people who don't necessarily present in the most stereotypical way for people to understand pronouns like straight away. Like with me, if I'm in drag, I'm quite obviously dressing as a woman. So just use she, her, but there'll be other people, non-binary people out there, etc., that aren't really dressing as either. So it's always good to ask, which is a positive thing.
Okay, so let's go back a bit then, shall we? Let's go back to little Val Qaeda.
Yeah, let's bring back the trauma again. I'm ready.
Oh, God. So whereabouts did you grow up? Whereabouts did you go to school? And what was that like for you?
So I was born and bred in Manchester. I am a Manchester Queen through and through. I was born in just the border of Stockport and Levenshulme, right near the McVitie's factory. So always woke up to the smell of biscuits in the air. And that wasn't just from the kitchen, it was from the outside. So
I've been in and seen their Jaffa cakes. It's very exciting.
Every single time, like it's such a staple of like Levenshulme. Every single time we drive past it, it just smells so lovely. But it's just a mystery of what's inside.
Oh yeah, I'm very lucky. I've been like inside Willy Wonka's inner area. I feel like really.
It was like Levenshulme's version of Willy Wonka. It's the only thing that we have.
So, what was it like growing up in Levenshulme then, and knowing that you were gay and knowing that you were different?
So in Levenshulme, that's where I went to primary school as well, literally around the corner. Like I got up out of bed, opened the door, walked, I think 20 seconds and my primary school was there. So I didn't really know I was gay. I knew I was different. I didn't really know I was gay in primary school because I went to a C of E primary school, so we didn't get taught about like gay, etc. I didn't know what gay was. Like I remember the first time I understood what gay was in high school when kids used to call me gay, and I'm like, what is that? I remember saying what is that to my friends. And they were like, oh, it's someone that likes boys. And straight away I was like, oh, I'm gay then. Like straight away, like that was just a straight away thing.
How old would you have been then, do you think?
I think it was just literally, I think it was on the first day of high school.
Oh, God.
I think it was like, how old do you have to be for that? 12?
12, yeah.
Yeah, so 12. As soon as I found out what gay was, because other people were calling me as like a negative thing, I was like, oh, right, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, I'm gay then.
So that's interesting because I think of you as a very young person. I mean, you were born in the 90s, so you're talking about the late 90s, early noughties, aren't you, really? And I would have thought by then LGBT issues might have been discussed even at primary school, or were they not being talked about in your home at all either?
No, so in primary school they didn't mention it at all.
No.
It was strictly straight sex education in year five, and in the home, well, gay just wasn't a used term, and it was very much see no evil, hear no evil. Looking back at it, if you don't mention it, they won't know what it is. But it's like little do you know, we do socialize in like places like that, and we will find out eventually. But they did a pretty good job because I didn't find out what it was until I was 12. So that's 12 years of hiding it from me. So
Wow, yeah. And was it a fairly strict Muslim household that you grew up in then?
yes, quite strict. So I grew up in my grandparents' home with my mum living there also, who was like a single mother. And they were quite strict Muslims, and they were the generation that came over from Pakistan. So my mum was second generation born here, and my grandparents came over from Pakistan in the late 50s, 60s.
Right. Yeah. So did you pray? Did you go to the mosque? Did you do all of that?
Yeah, to pray, go to the mosque, read the Quran 3 times, which took, I think, 3 years.
Wow.
Go to Arabic school, pray, etc. Watch Islamic TV shows on Sky, which was a super massive thing at the time. It's not so much now.
Fast at Ramadan, all of that.
Yeah, fast at Ramadan. Like, even, yeah, no, that was very, very strict. I had to fast every single time. I think it was encouraged. It wasn't actually too bad because it was encouraged at like whenever you sort of like understood it, and they wouldn't expect you to keep it all, like especially at the ages of like 8, etc. But when it got to like 12, and when you became like went through puberty, etc., it's like, okay, now you have to do the whole fast sort of things. And to be honest, it was kind of fun. It was like it's a very Ramadan brings families together a lot because you're all experiencing the same thing, and then to break the fast, you just sit down together when there's always a family meal at the end of every day. So it was really nice. It brings families together. So I don't really complain about Ramadan, really.
No, absolutely not. But from people that I have spoken to who are Muslim and gay or part of the LGBT family, it's a tough journey sometimes because it's kind of frowned upon, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think with myself, it was like I still identify as a Muslim now. I'm more of a liberal Muslim, more of a spiritual Muslim. I believe in all the teachings, etc. I just don't really do what I'm meant to do, but I do believe in Allah, etc. So that's it's my personal relationship with God that I concentrate on because it's only between me and Him. That's it. I did go through very conflicting emotions and like, can I being gay and being Muslim, like that's not really a thing. But then you just come to the realization of, well, to be honest, as much as it's taught that, oh, it's a sin to be gay, if you so technically it's only a sin if you act upon your desires.
Yes.
So that's the only thing. So if you're gay, it's not a sin, it's only if you act upon it. But it's like, okay, it's definitely not a choice. So clearly something went wrong here. And we believe in Islam that we're all made in God's image. So it's a bit scandalous to say, but if I'm gay and I was born it, surely that's a part of God. So He does love me as I am. So I just concentrate on being a good person, being charitable, always helping people before me, which is like one of the foundations of Islam, being like just a nice person and a positive person for your community. And that's what I concentrate on.
And I think I'd like to hear more religious people speak like that, really. You know, whether they're Muslim, Sikh, or Christian or Jewish. It'd just be nice if everyone just got on, wouldn't it, really?
God, that would be the dream, wouldn't it?
So let's get back to school then. I mean, not literally, but you said you were called gay from like the first day at school. Was that difficult? Was there a lot of bullying?
There was quite a bit of bullying because essentially what I did, I think it was in the first week of school. So the first day, like when I said, oh yeah, you know what, I am gay to my friends because I realised what it was. Then I got home and I was actually on my computer and I was on Facebook and I was like, it's been a week of all these people calling me gay. Like I'm getting really sick and tired of it. So I sat on my little computer on my little dial-up and I wrote out like, do you know how like on Facebook everyone was always like, oh, it's like your name, and I was like, is feeling hungry, or like is watching children in need. But I wrote my government name. I would like to announce that he's gay, And I pressed enter and I was like, oh, I mean, I don't care, but let's just delete it. So it was up for like 30 seconds. And then I went to sleep, went to school the next day. The whole school was talking about it because someone had saw it and it just spread around like wildfire. And I was like, oh, well, at least it's out there now. Like, everyone's like, oh my God, are you actually gay? And I'm like, yeah. And I was the only out gay person in my whole school from the year of 7. Like, the only gay person like out in the whole school. So
you don't regret posting it for 30 seconds then? Was it better to be out, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was better to be out because I just don't think mentally I would have coped.
So 12, that's pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, I was a brave kid from like, I was very like outspoken, even from a young age. Like my grandparents would always say to me, like would always be proud of me, like, because my granddad specifically would always say, like, we genuinely thought you were like a blessing from God because you'd ask really existential questions as like a child that no other child is like, they've never heard another child speak that way. And whenever like friends from different cities would come, they'd like sit and listen to me apparently, just talking about the universe, and they'd be like, this child is like really enlightened and like it's something like there's something's going to happen with this child, like he's like asking questions that I'd never asked by a child and sometimes even adults. So I was very, very outspoken. I wasn't really afraid. So I don't really regret it. At the age of 12, I think it was better for me to come out than for me to hide myself, which I wouldn't have done because that wasn't my character anyway. As soon as I knew what it was like, I've got nothing to hide. Okay, yeah, I am.
But essentially at 12, you're still a child for a number of years then, aren't you, really?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely knew I was different. Like, I feel like I had the attraction to boys and men when I was, like, even younger, like, at the age of, like, 7 or something. But I just didn't know what it was. It wasn't, like, I didn't have a definition for it. So I didn't necessarily see it as a sexual attraction, but I knew it was an attraction that I didn't have to girls. I think it was more confusing because even straight relationships and like boys and girls, etc., that wasn't talked about either. Anything sexual, anything relationship wise, wasn't talked about in a Muslim household. The only representation you'd see of it is married people in the family, etc. But even then, it was just a thing like, oh, they're married. You don't actually think about what goes behind the marriage and like if they're having sex, etc. Like, you don't see it as a sexual thing, you just see it as part of the family. So I don't think I even understood, like, I don't think I even understood how to have sex until year 5, etc. Whereas when we did the sexual education, whereas all the other people in the classroom were like, oh, we already knew, you didn't know. And it's like, what? I thought you had sex by putting your penis in a girl's belly button because I didn't even know what they had down there.
Wow, that sounds painful. So what was the reaction then from your sort of classmates then? Did they sort of go, oh, right, that's fine, or was there still bullying carrying on?
So there was still, well, it helps because I was like best friends with like the hottest girls in school, so any straight guy that had to get to them had to go through me, so they'd like to keep me in the good books. And also, if anyone said anything, they'd protect me, etc. And they like say, "Oh, shut up," and the other people would be like, "Oh shit, like they're actually really hot. We should listen." But mainly the bullying came from the boys in my own community, like the South Asian Muslims. That was sort of like, how can one of ours be gay? And like, I did used to get like beat up sometimes in like PE when I'd be by myself, and then they'd have me when I didn't have my friends around them. PE was like the worst for me because I didn't have like my friends around them because it's all separated by sex, isn't it? So yeah, I did get like beat up a few times. And
did you report that?
Not really, because I just thought, okay, just, you know what, just get on with it. I think it came to I think it was either year 8 or 9 where there was this one specific boy that was like the ringleader that always had like a massive issue with me being gay. He was also South Asian and Muslim. I think there was one time in a class where I got so sick and tired of it, I stood up and I think he threw something at me and it hit my face or something in the class. So I stood up, turned round and just walloped him in the classroom. And then it ended up being like a fight, and we got like split up, and we got both taken to the head teacher's office, sat outside waiting for the head teacher. And it's like, that's such a bad move. Like, for some people that have just had fights, you got them to sit down alone outside a head teacher's office. But it was really, really a weird dynamic. I think it boiled up to a point of like the blows, and then when we were sat alone outside the head teacher's office, I think I remember myself making a joke, something like, "Oh, that was a bit much. Like, that was my first fight," and he was like, "Oh yeah, same." And I was like, "Oh, have you got any tips for me next time?" And then we were just saying, "Oh yeah, just swing a bit faster next time." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, noted." And it was like a really weird debrief, I think, because it just got up to that point. And there was no like anything physical after that. It was just like verbal bullying, etc. But we got to a point where we moved past it in like year 8, year 9 when we had the fight, and then it was just verbal abuse from then. Like, there was nothing physical ever done to me after that.
Sounds like you sort of almost accepted it and just put up with it, really.
I think no, because it was still very much verbal bullying. Like, every time he'd see me, like, he'd walk past me and his group of friends would all like laugh, etc. But it was that rather than trying to beat me up in PE again. You know what I mean? So,
but that's so hurtful, isn't it, and damaging as well.
Yeah, that does get damaging, etc. I think my self-worth in high school was definitely much lower than a lot of other people due to, because it was daily. It was definitely daily verbal bullying, etc. But it is what it is, and kids can be kids, and they shouldn't happen. It won't happen. It wouldn't happen now because there's so many like restrictions and like ways to deal with it. But our school was advertised as a zero tolerance bullying high school, and they really were really bad at like enforcing that. But it is what it is, and I feel like it made me stronger. So
okay, and so with all this going on, presumably, did your mum know? Did you come out to her separately, or did she find out anyway?
So the way she found out, we had moved out of my grandparents' house at this point. It was when I was, I think, 15. My maths teacher, who was also Muslim and South Asian, the same boy and his group of friends were in my maths class, and they were like calling me like gay, etc. Like, and I just kept saying, "Shut up, shut up." And then everyone was leaving, and then I was the last person to leave, and then my maths teacher stopped and he was like, "Oh, what were they talking about? Like, they were saying you were gay and that." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Are you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, right, okay. All right then, yeah, you can go, that's fine." So I was like, "Okay, that's fine, didn't think anything of it." And then when I got home, I was upstairs revising for some exams, and my mom sort of like screamed my name from downstairs, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Like, we already had a tumultuous relationship anyway because my mom was very much unstable due to things that she's been through in her life, and she would like, and we didn't have a very good relationship. We'd always be like at each other's like throats with arguments, etc. More her to me and me just being quiet. And so I was like, "Oh great, something else, like she's gonna get angry again." And then I was downstairs when she I came downstairs when she yelled my name, and she was like sitting there, and she was like, "Sit down." And I sat down like on the couch opposite her, and she was like, "So I just got a phone call from one of your teachers that you're gay."
What?
Yeah. So basically what happened was my maths teacher called up my mum because he is South Asian and Muslim and said, "Found out this about your son, and I thought you should know because obviously like we're South Asian and Muslim." So she found out through that, and then from then it just went all downhill and everything started from there.
So, I mean, unbelievable that he would do that. I mean, surely that isn't within the policy of the school, is it, to ring parents and tell them about their children's sexuality?
Well, I didn't really know that at the time. I was sort of concentrating about, oh my God, how am I going to survive? Is she going to kick me out? Is she going to murder me? Like, I think I didn't really know that at the time. I just went into sort of like survival mode, and I was like denying it. And she was like, I know. So you don't need to deny it. And I was like, okay. And I was just literally crying, and it got really like physical, and I sort of locked myself in my room. Lots of people now, whenever they tell me that, they're always super, super shocked, but I've moved past it. Like, it's something I've moved past, and they're like, "You should still report that person." I was like, "Oh, I don't even know, like, if he's alive. I remember his name, but I don't want to go through that route and bring it up again."
No, fair enough. But so your mum took it really badly?
Yeah, she took it really, really badly. It was like a couple months of physical abuse where she'd like smash my head into like a radiator, etc. Like just outbursts of anger. It was what it was, and it got to the point where she ended up kicking me out, and she essentially called my granddad to pick me up, and I ended up living with my granddad for about a year, but she never actually told him why she kicked me out. So she just sort of like went cold and like didn't speak to me for like a year. And my grandparents didn't really ask any questions. They would just took me in. They were like, right, okay, I guess you're staying with us.
And it was 100% because of your sexuality.
Yeah.
Gosh. It's just so hurtful, isn't it? And did you ever feel tempted to tell your granddad, or I guess you feared that you'd be homeless again?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't wasn't tempted at all because I got out of that physical like abuse from my mum after finding out, because it was very much almost every day for like a good couple of months, and it really damaged me. And I just thought, right, I'm actually out of this. As much as they're super strict Muslims, I'd just rather be safe and not be like going through things with my mum and be like assaulted, etc. So I'm just happy. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And this was during my GCSEs. All happened during my GCSEs. So on one hand, I had to study for my GCSEs and go through all this with my mum, etc. So it kind of impacted my GCSEs a lot. But in the end, my mum randomly, after like a couple of months of me living at my grandparents, I ended up calling them out of spite and saying, you didn't realise why I kicked him out. And they were like, why? He's gay. And told them. And then that set off the chain reaction with my granddad. Like, my grandma was quite a meek person, and I was closer to my grandma. She was like the second mum, so she was just crying.
Yeah.
Granddad went into like a flurry of rage and violence, and he just grabbed me by the throat and tried to like strangle me. And at that point, I literally like pushed him off, locked the door of my bedroom, and saw a bin bag that I had and grabbed as much as I could in, ran out of the door, was on the streets in like rain, figuring out what to do. But luckily, because that was where I grew up around my primary school, etc., I reconnected with the primary school friend just a couple of weeks prior to that, who I hadn't seen since primary school. So I was like, oh, they live around the corner, I'm just going to go straight there. So I went straight there with like my 2 bin bags in tow, like walking 25 minutes in the rain to there, and explained what happened. And they're like a white family, and they were really, really loving and accepting, and they knew I was gay. And I told them, I was like, they found out. So I stayed there the night. And then that's sort of like when my independent journey started, like from when I was 15.
Wow. It's so upsetting to hear this. And it isn't that long ago. That's the scary thing, isn't it? This is only what, sort of
11 years ago for me.
11 years ago. So we're talking 2009.
Yes.
Yeah. It's absolutely terrifying. So you got help from that family, but did you get help from anyone else? Because essentially you were trying to do your GCSEs and you were homeless.
Yeah, so I stayed with that friend for I think a couple of days, and then I had a best friend at the time who was a little bit older than me, and she was like Iranian, from an Iranian family, who was like quite liberal. She was half white and half Iranian. They were like really nice, and like she was like kind of like a sister to me. And essentially, I stayed at her house for a year going into college, and the family were like, we'll help you financially from now on, because they were quite well off, and just like really accepted me. But I can't really remember, but we just like ended up not speaking for a bit after, because basically a year after that, when I was like, I think when I just turned 17, it was like a year and a bit, I got help off the Albert Kennedy Trust, who found me a homeless hostel, and I ended up living there at the age of 17. And while I was in the homeless hostel, I sort of lost contact with that friend, and I was just sort of like living it alone in the homeless hostel at the age of 17, going to college. And I ended up dropping out of college because it was just a bit too much living in the homeless hostel and going to college.
I bet.
And yeah, I spent my 18th birthday in that homeless hostel, and from then it was just living independently. After I was in there for 2 years, from the age of 17.
Well, on the plus side, I'm really thrilled to hear that Albert Kennedy Trust managed to help you, because I'm a big supporter of their charity. I'm a volunteer for them, and I've interviewed Tim Sigsworth, the CEO of Albert Kennedy Trust, and it's just nice to hear that they can help people, and it's tragic that there are people like you. People don't believe that. This is why I wanted to do the whole podcast really in the book, because people just don't believe that these things still happen, and they're happening on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I don't think it happens as much, and well, it does happen, but especially to the extent of my story, etc. Like, I don't think it happens that much, or maybe that harsh. Like, you never really hear about getting disowned by your family and then literally never speaking to them again. Normally it's like a good few years, no matter how long, and then you got to get back in touch with them. But with me, it's been 11 years, and I'm completely confident. Like, I've not spoken to them for 11 years. They don't have my number. They don't know where I live. I know for sure I'm never going to speak to them again, and I've made peace with that. So I think my story is a bit unique, because I just know I'm going to be like, I'm not going to have a biological family like forever.
And is there any part of you that has a regret and thinks, I'd actually really like to pick up the phone and speak to them and try and talk them around? No?
No, because I have my chosen family, and I do have conversations with them all the time. Something like, I do feel lonely, etc. Like, especially when it gets to like holiday times, when it gets to like Eid, etc. Because that's very much a family thing. But I have made my chosen family, and like, they've shown me more love than I had in the whole 15 years of my own family. So
Gosh.
I'm really grateful for that. So no, I don't have any regrets.
So have you got a partner?
I don't have a partner, unfortunately. Just concentrating on myself. I do have a really close-knit group of friends that, like 5 or 6 sort of like best friends who are just complete family to me, who I know will do anything for me, who I've known for ages, like 5 years, etc. With me, the amount of time I put into friendship, you're either my best friend or someone that I just see out and say hello to. And like those 5, 6 people are like my best friends, who I know will do anything for me, like at any point. I don't really see the point of putting energy into someone that you know won't like that you don't, like, there's no point in putting energy into someone that's just sort of like a fleeting high and by friend. I don't know what the point of that is. I'd rather just make friends that are like family to me.
I think LGBT people are brilliant at doing that, actually, are brilliant at finding their own family and creating their own normal and their own family knit groups, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of have to survive that way, don't we?
Yeah, it's the only way we can survive, and I think I'm very, very lucky, like, because it's not a lot of people like have more than sort of like one person, whereas I've literally got like 5, 6 people I can literally trust in my life, and that is really, really, like, I'm really, really grateful for that, because some people don't even have 5, 6 people in their family, and essentially I've got a big family around me, like family.
And so, did you not have any brothers or sisters? No.
So no, I grew up as a single child. I mean, I guess we're always a single child.
Yeah.
I grew up in just the only child growing up. So yeah.
And I normally ask people about, career and work, because sometimes it's a big deal coming out in the workplace as well. But I mean, you've chosen a fairly gay-friendly employment, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I don't really. I don't, since the age of like finding out that I was gay and like coming out on Facebook, I don't think I've ever lied about being gay or hid it. Like, no matter what, even before I started drag, I've just always been open. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Because essentially, I have nothing to lose now, because at the age of 15, like, I got this own, like, what else am I going to lose?
Well, that's it. You lost everything, basically, didn't you? Well, you lost what you thought was your world at a very, very young, important age. Yeah. And yet you never, ever denied it. Like, you came out really early at 12. What do you think has given you that inner strength and that belief to just come out as soon as you knew what the word gay meant? You were out of that closet, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was even in the closet. I don't think I was at the point of being flat packed from IKEA, getting built the closet. Like, I don't think I was at that point. Just no point in hiding. There's no point in hiding, because there's more energy put into hiding, which is negative, than there is being yourself.
Yeah. And how did you get into drag then? Was that something that you'd always watched and just wanted to get involved in?
Oh, absolutely not. When I was 8, I think the first time I even knew what a drag queen was when I was like 18, when I went out to the village and I met a drag queen for the first time, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize like these people existed. Like from like 3 years living independently as a gay person, obviously I didn't really have any gay friends or anything, but as soon as I turned 18, I was like, oh, I get to the village. And then went to the village and I saw drag queens and I was like, I didn't know that this was a thing. Like, this is a bit weird. I was a bit scared off a bit because at that point, I mean, I've always been quite flamboyant, but I was very much of, oh, I need to be a man, because I was like dismantling everything that I learned growing up. So I was like, oh, it's a bit uncomfortable. Like, I love them, but it's a bit uncomfortable for me, the idea. I actually started drag at Davina's bar, Kiki. She did with her husband.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, I was working behind the bar, and then they had like a themed night on Tuesday. And one of the drag queens on that night was like, I really want to paint you. And I was like, that's not happening. And they were saying like 2 months. And I was like, oh, fine, go on then. Because I hadn't clean shaved like ever since I grew a beard at the age of 3. So like, maybe not 3, but about like 11. But yeah, I never clean shaved. So I didn't know what the fuck was under there. And she ended up doing it. I had really a lot of fun because I got to make the outfit and I got to style it and everything. I looked really good, and straight away, because I worked there behind the bar, like the managers were like, "Do you want your own night?" And I was like, "What? Like I've done drag once?" And they're like, "Yeah, it'd be like really really fun, and like you can be a part of like this night called Crucifixion, and that could be your night." And I was like, go on then. And I was like, but I don't do my own makeup. So like the first 3 times I didn't do my own makeup. And then after that, I started learning. But yeah, I started it because I was like, you know what? There's no one out here that I feel like represents me. Like there was a lovely drag queen, Black Ivory. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's Muslim and Bengali. But there was no Pakistani Muslim drag queen who's like super, super out there and like speaking up for representation and everything. So I was like, you know what? I don't have that. I wish someone would speak up like about representation in like a whitewashed industry, especially in Manchester. And so I was like, okay, if I can't see a representation, be it. So I started it, and I'm really glad I started drag because so as much as I denied my culture and sort of like tried to shy away from it from like at the age of 15 after like being kicked out, I was like, okay, let me just like get back into the culture and like get in touch with my South Asian side and like Bollywood, etc. Learning more about the religion, and I was like, oh right, okay, drag actually brought me closer to my culture that I felt like I denied a lot because I thought it was embarrassing, like to be gay and also be South Asian, but doing drag I realized that it's actually something unique that you should be grateful to.
That's what I love about your drag, though, because you can tell how much you love your culture, and you really do embody that sort of fabulous and flamboyant essence of Bollywood, don't you really?
Essentially, I'm lucky to have that culture that I can reference from, because not a lot of people have like such a vibrant, colourful culture, like especially like Bollywood dressing, etc. And I'm lucky because that makes me stand out. Like, who knows, if I wasn't South Asian, I'd just be another queen in a leotard, like before performing Sweet Transvestite. But I don't have to be that. Luckily, I've got something that can make me different. So it's a good thing for me, for sure.
Yeah, well, I interviewed Asifa Lahore quite a few years ago, and she always used to bill herself as Britain's first Muslim Asian drag queen. But I guess there's a few now.
Yeah, she's a very, very close friend. I didn't know about Asifa until the ages of like 18 because I just stumbled because I was like researching like Muslim drag queens because I was obviously a Muslim drag queen starting drag, and I came across her Channel 4 documentary. And I was watching that and I was like, oh, so there are other people out there like me, because I genuinely thought I was like the only one. So I was like, what the hell? It's just really, really nice because from watching Muslim drag queens and being in awe to during this pandemic, like me and Asifa, we've still not met in real life, but me and Asifa have, become really, really close. We FaceTime all the time. I FaceTimed her 2 days ago. We just got really, really close. So it's really full circle from seeing that documentary to now her being one of my closest friends in my chosen family.
Oh, I can't wait for you two to meet. That's fabulous.
Oh, God, I know, exactly. We've got loads of plans to work together.
Well, we need to see you on the next UK season of Drag Race then, don't we?
Oh, who knows? We do need that South Asian representation, though, so...
Well, we do, exactly. Because I feel like drag in the US is very multicultural and very mixed, isn't it? But I feel like you're right. It's a very white thing in the UK, isn't it?
We're the most underrepresented in the media in drag. It doesn't make sense. Like, there's more white queens out there. There's thank goodness now that there's a flurry of black drag queens that are representing their community, but South Asians are getting left behind. Like you don't see any representation, especially queer representation, queer South Asian representation. So I think it's very important to keep doing like me and Asifa, like we keep doing drag to inspire other people and the younger generations to do it. Because that's the thing, if you don't see someone like you doing it, you don't know if you can do it. I get messages all the time. They're saying that, oh my God, like, I didn't realize that a South Asian person could do drag. I realized a Muslim person could do drag. So I'm finally doing drag now, and I've inspired like a good 4 or 5 during this lockdown who are messaging me all the time for tips on makeup. How do I look? How do I look? How do I look? So it's like, one day you will look good.
That's fantastic. God, so finally, what advice would you give to a young Val Qaeda, maybe age 12, just about to send that Facebook post? What would you like to say to that person today?
I'd just say, send that Facebook post, girl. Everyone already knows it. But I mean, do exactly what you did, but really appreciate everyone around you. Live your life. Don't be so shut out by the fear of people saying things to you and bullying you from 100% you being who you are. Don't be embarrassed about being South Asian, because that's what makes you unique. I do kind of regret, the only thing is, when I did get kicked out, I was quite ashamed of being South Asian, so I didn't speak like Urdu for like 8 years, and I can fully understand it. I just can't speak it anymore, and it's such a shame because I was so embarrassed about it. And looking back, I was like, why was I so stupid being embarrassed about it? I just lost a part of my culture that is going to take ages to like come back. But don't be afraid of being South Asian and gay. Don't be afraid of being Muslim and gay. You can be both, and you were made in God's image, and God loves you.
Thanks, Val. Gosh, what a sobering story. Thank God you got the life that you deserve in the end. I just can't imagine spending my 18th birthday in a homeless hostel. I cannot wait to come and see you on a stage somewhere. Right, next episode, we're off to LA to meet Lee the lesbian. She didn't come out though until she was in her 40s, partly because of what her dad once said to her.
And he was kind of joking, but he said, like, you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want. Just don't be a radical feminist lesbian.
What?
And he had such scorn and such dislike for this. I don't even know what or who he was talking about, but that just like embedded in my brain. And I really think that was cost me like 10 years of not coming out.